YouTube channel. If you don't, then have a look on YouTube, and we have quite a lot of subscribers. So one thing I say is, if you ever follow my channel, everywhere I go, it normally rains. So one thing today, amazingly, it was lovely. It was cold. We never got any rain. So somebody said to me, he said, why every single time do I talk about the weather? Well, sorry, I'm British, and being British, you know, we talk about the weather a lot. So it always rains. So I'm going to talk about C&I, and there's lots of people here. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah? Fantastic. So I'm going to talk about C&I. So there's lots of C&I and containers and battery storage everywhere. You know, we set about a number of years ago doing a C&I solution. Nobody was doing it. And I've been thinking about it a long time. We've been in, I'm Sunsync, and we've been in business a long time, 25 years. Long time. 25 years ago, everyone thought we were mad. You know, solar, batteries and storage, there's no market. And they're quite right. It's all changed in the last few years, but we've been at it a long, long time. And, you know, I'm going to talk about the C&I market, because a couple of years ago, well, about 5 years ago, we developed our first container unit. And it was quite unique because not a lot of people were doing it. Very, very few people were doing it. Now it appears that everyone is doing it. Everyone is an expert. Anybody in China are an expert. You know, I come across companies, they make jeans, they make mobile phones, but they're experts. They know they've been doing it for at least a year, so they're experts. Many of the companies never actually installed one. And I often say to people, we've got all this new technology, we're doing this. I say, well, have you actually produced one and installed a unit? Not yet, but we've got very good drawings, we've got very good ideas, and we studied the market, so we know the market. And it amazes me why people take such huge risks. And you've got companies willing to shell out hundreds of thousands of pounds on one system, yet it's untried, untested, on nothing. And that always amazes me. So, you know, everything has been going absolutely crazy on price. So people saying now, oh, you know, we're doing our systems, you're too expensive. You're too expensive. You know, you should be at least £25 a kilowatt hour. You know, it's just the price come down. Whether that is ever realistic, I don't know. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, these huge containers. I travel around the world, and I'm an electrical engineer, and I travel to many countries. I apologise for not doing slides, and I don't tend to bore people with PowerPoint, because I think death by PowerPoint is terrible. So I apologise for that. But I see these systems around the world, and you know, some of these high density batteries, because it's all about high density now. How much you can cram into the smallest possible space, really tiny space. And the buzzword now is says, oh, but we're liquid cooled. It's water. It's water. Basically, you put metal plates in between the batteries and you pump cool water through it. That's what they'll put some coolant, something to antifreeze or something, but that's what it is. You get real. And you know, the people are trying to, and I've seen these things being manufactured, and amazing, and they're producing now huge batteries, absolutely huge batteries. These things weigh maybe half a ton in weight, and they've got these amazing cranes, these absolutely amazing machines and robotics, and they slot them into the container, absolutely perfect. It goes in, amazing. And then they get all the pipes, and they weld all the pipes shut, and then they put all the tubes and everything else all goes in, and then it all fits nice and tight, and they put the electronics and the wiring all nice and tight, and then basically they might as well weld the container shut. Because you know what, if that thing goes wrong, you're on a site, how are you going to service it? What are you going to do? Are you going to be able to move a half a ton battery out of there to open it up and do all the plumbing, everything else? Of course not. You can't do anything with it. You might as well, it's like buying a very, very expensive car, buying, you know, top of the range Ferrari with the bonnet closed. And when it fails, you're going to have to throw it away. Because that's the problem. And people don't realize that, because they just talk about price per kilowatt hour, but they don't think about the serviceability. So one of the things I've always looked about is two things. One is focusing on air cooling, because air cooling is much easier to control. You haven't got water flowing through high voltages. You know, I'm an electrical engineer. When I was an apprentice, you know, we've always said, you know, water, electrics don't mix, not clever. Nowadays, we're putting water and electrics together. pumping them through high voltage batteries. Not a couple of hundred volts, but 1,000 volts plus. We're pumping water through, I'm thinking, oh, hold on, it's a cooling system. But, we talk about the UK. Sometimes it gets cold in the UK, and, even with antifreeze, water can freeze. Burst pipes. What is it going to do? Oh, my container battery, my storage system's got a burst pipe. I don't really understand it's got a problem. But also look at the reliability. Look at the reliability. What goes wrong besides water cooling and stuff like that? So I know an absolute fact. We sell a lot of batteries. Something we sell a lot. Globally, we're probably one of the biggest in the world for sheer number of batteries, because we operate in many countries. We know roughly our failure rate. We've got the experience. We've been going a long time. So we see in current batteries at the moment, which are these sorts of 5.2, 5.3 kilowatt hour packs. So we see roughly about 1 in every 2,000 fail. That's the actual truth, about 1 in every 2,000. As a percentage, what's that? 0.005%. It's tiny. It's absolutely minuscule. It's really small. So you think about that figure. So inside one of these 5.2 or 5.3 kilowatt hour packs, you're going to get, say, 16 cells in a series, and one of those cells could fail, and that would cause a failure. So the actual percentage of a cell failing is very, very, very small. But now, take the same figure, because that's an absolute figure. We know that. And the failure is often the cell going open circuit. We know it happens, and we monitor it, and we have balancing circuits, and we do everything else that everybody else does. So we know what happens. But if you imagine taking that to a large-scale CNI, a huge CNI, so based on the same figure, on a 1 megawatt, so you're talking about a tiny percentage on a 5 kilowatt, multiply it to a 1 megawatt. Well, if you do the maths in your head, it's 10%. 10% chance of failing on 1 megawatt. That's a cell, one cell. You're going to look at a 10% failure rate. Take the same scenario to a 5 megawatt system. You're looking at a 50% failure. Now, at some point, something will fail. And whether anybody says, oh, ours is the best, ours is wonderful, ours is going to think, you're going to put something out there that's going to last for, say, designed to last 10 years, maybe out there for 20 years. This is technology that is new. Everyone's talking about lithium phosphate. Lithium is amazing, it's mature technology. It is not. Most of the power stations and stuff in the UK use flow batteries or lead acid batteries. It's only in the last couple of years people have started to use lithium batteries. It's brand new technology. It's new, untried, untested. So we're now willing to put out, these bankers are willing to put their hands in their pocket and spend millions and millions of pounds on something that's not tested. It's not tried. It is something that people don't realize about this, or they do realize and they choose to ignore it. So one of the things that we've always tried to do as something, and some other companies do the same, we try to keep on container systems. And if you get anything out my talk, or you think I'm just totally boring, and if you're involved ever in CNI, container battery, look at look at serviceability. Because if this unit, even if it is in the UK or if it is in a remote place, if something goes wrong, and the chances of going wrong is fairly high at some point over its lifetime. Now, you're looking at something could fail. Think about how are you going to service it. I said to the factory, I was in the factory when they were using these massive robots and they were fitting these things into the container. And I said to them, what happens if something goes wrong? How do you service it? The guy looked at me and goes, that's a good question. I've been thinking about that. So this is actually the truth. And people don't realize the problems. So, one of the things that can fail, this is where it fails dangerously. So, inside a container, you've got these cells. If you've got low density and every battery maybe only got 16 cells, fine. It's much safer because if you have a problem, you can switch it off. But some of these batteries actually use series parallel. Now, I haven't got drawings, but people are technical. You've got series parallel circuit. So you'll have series of these cells are about 3.4 volts each, and you may end up with, on a little pack it's only 16, but some of them may have a lot of batteries in series, but they'll have a secondary series in parallel. We've got lots of monitoring. They've got the BMS monitors the state of play, monitors absolutely everything that's going on. It's all monitored, it's all tested, it's all checked. But deep inside one of these cells, these massive cells, deep inside there, if one of those cells goes open circuit, goes high resistance, you've got 1,000 volt across it. So a 3.2 volt cell can suddenly be seeing 1,000 volts. Well, maybe not 1,000 volts, but maybe 400 volt, 500 volts. So that cell that's used to seeing 3.2, 3.4 volt has now got 400 volts across it. So people say, well, yeah, but lithium phosphate, it's safe. You can put hammers through it, we can drive over it, we can bang it, we can do this, we can put in bonfire. It's safe. It is safe, and they are very safe. However, what happens is when you start subjecting something to a high voltage for a long period, and now you've got your battery inside there, and you've got your high voltage. It's got a high voltage across it. What will tend to happen is it will gas. It will emit a gas. Now, people like Tesla, and we do at Sunsync, we recognise that, and we use igniters, and we use individual, but they're small packs, because that gas is what builds up inside there, and you've got flammable gases inside it. It's not the cell that's going to go, it's the venting, it's the gases that's going to come off it, and suddenly, bang, that thing is going up. I had a similar talk. I was talking in the Cape about 2 or 3 months ago. Exactly the same thing. I'm telling people, as I'm doing the talk in the Cape, one on the top of the Cape the same day blew up. You look at people and people say, oh yeah, but it's the cooling system. The one in Australia, I'm not picking on any particular company, Australia, they were doing stuff in Australia. Cooling system failed, it blew up. You see the one in California, oh, it's all technology. They blow up. Just think about the serviceability and what can actually go wrong. But when you bring these into smaller segments and smaller cells, then you can disconnect. If you've got a huge array, your BMS, your battery management system, can monitor everything. It can look at what's going wrong, but it can't, there's a lot of things it can't do. Whereas an individual cell, if you have a problem, you can send an engineer to remove that section, switch it off. The rest of the system can carry on functioning. It's serviceability. And I think people don't realize about its serviceability is the big thing. It is so important. I'm going to finish shortly, but the amazing thing is these things, these huge super duper high density units, they put them in petrol stations, in gasoline stations. I'm like, oh my God, I don't get it. As an electrical engineer, but I'm not a banker, I'm not a financial guy, I'm not looking how much payback I can get, how quickly I can get my money back. I'm looking about, how long is that going to last? Is it going to blow up? What's the reliability like? And, I just, some of the things that's going on is being driven by finance, but people are going to get burnt. In a sense, they will get burnt. So that's my main point of this talk, is looking at the differences between C&I, looking at lower density batteries rather than cramming as much as you possibly can into a container. So lower density, that's the important thing. Looking at the things that can go wrong, making sure you've got a good battery, EMS, energy management system that can control everything. But it's not just the energy management system, it's being able to focus on individual cells. For goodness sake, keep things that you can manage, that you can replace a cell or a battery. If you imagine if you're going to buy something, how are you going to service it? How are you going to repair it if it goes wrong? Because would you ever buy a car with the bonnet welded shut? So, that's the main thing I'm going to get. And I hope I'm not being too boring. If anybody's ever interested, if you go on our website, there's a QR code and you can join the Suns. We've got hundreds of thousands of followers. I do a lot of this sort of stuff. In many topics and many things. I'm an electrical engineer, and if you're interested, please follow us or please subscribe on something. So I think I've got 5 minutes left. I'm trying to rush through it. I'm trying to talk too fast because I said if anybody's got any questions or anything or wants to ask me anything, then We've got a couple of minutes left to do it. No, oh, okay.
So I totally agree with you on don't mix water and electric. However, we are doing it, and is this not just a speed issue about properly monitoring yourselves and then just opening DC breakers when you detect over voltage?
Well, yes, that's correct in that respect. So yes, we are mixing it together. If you actually look at it where they are, you've got metal plates inside between the batteries. How long do you think they will last? I don't know. How long does a radiator last in a car? How long does a water pump last in a car? It's normally the thing that fails. And when you're so reliable, consider it the difference between, this is just purely a spacing issue rather than anything else. And so you can cram as much as you possibly can. And some of the problems you're going to get is when you're getting the larger systems, you're not even going to allow to transport them on the road because they're too heavy. So you are correct in that respect. But every system has breakers. But you've also got to consider the size of the battery pack. Even if you've got your breakers, your disconnects, and as I tried to explain before, if you've got a series parallel configuration, you can backfeed, even if it's switched off, internally of the battery can backfeed. That's what's happening. And if you see some of these historic videos years ago when they used to have, there's a great one on the YouTube where there's a laptop in California or something, and it was blowing up, and the Americans said, "Stand clear of the laptop." It was because they used series parallel at a very small scale, in just a laptop. And this thing went like a good one. So that's where you got series parallel, because it'll self-feed itself. Anything else before I finish? So anyway, thank you. I hope I haven't bored you too much. Please look at our YouTube channel, subscribe. We are at Sunsync here, and thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.